Hey friends, and welcome back to my channel for another video. Today I have a friend here coming with me. This is the only way that I'm going to be able to get anything done, and that is baby wearing. So he is asleep right now. Hopefully he'll stay asleep for this entire video, but we shall see. I might have to pause and come back, but we'll find out. So today I thought I would film my birth story for you guys while it's still fresh in my head before I completely get rid of all of that and can't remember all of the details. So little man is 26 days old today, so we're almost a month old already. Holy crud. Leave is just flying by and like the days are just blurring together. I'm like, there's no way you're 26 days already. Like, you're almost a month old. Like, when did that happen? So time with our newborn is speeding by. So but yeah, so my labor and delivery story, looking down because I have a little list so I don't forget to tell you the details. And for those that don't know, I mean most of you know, but if this is your first video watching me, we live overseas in Guam. We are a military family. So I delivered here at Naval Hospital Guam. So my story starts out as, so my due date was May 26th, and this little man arrived promptly on his due date. He was on the dot. He didn't want to wait. We had it down to a science. But I started laboring on the 24th. So, sorry, if I look down, I'm just looking at my timeline. On the 24th, I started laboring. So around 5 p.m., I started having like cramping contractions. So it felt like period cramps, but like worse. So I'm like, something's kind of off. And they slowly started getting more consistent. By like 8 or 9 p.m., they were definitely like contractions. Rowdy had been at work all day long. So 24th was a Tuesday because his due date was a Thursday. So it was a Tuesday. So Rowdy had been at work all day long. I was up at 5 a.m. with him because I'm just an early riser and was awake with him. So he had to work the next day. We weren't sure if I was actually in labor. So he went to bed and got some sleep because he was supposed to be going to work the next day. So I stayed up and I called and talked to my mother-in-law on the phone. For those that don't know, she was a labor and delivery nurse for years upon years. She's retired now. So I was calling her to talk to her, telling her what I was feeling, and she was kind of giving me breathing exercises to do through the contractions. So we kind of talked through that. And because they're from Texas and it was morning time there, early morning, like 6, 7 a.m., but morning time. So by 10, 11 p.m. that night, they were consistent. So the hospital gave us the rule of it's 5 minutes apart, or contractions that last a minute long, 5 minutes apart for an hour in length, for over an hour. So that was happening. So I woke Rowdy up and we decided that was the stipulation they gave us. We should head to the hospital. So that is what we did. So I went to the Navy hospital at 11 o'clock at night. And when you get there, they put you into a triage room where they check all your vitals. They hook you up to a monitor to check your heart rate, and then they also put all the monitors on your stomach to make sure that baby's doing good and to monitor baby. And if you ever go into the mother and baby unit, at least here in Guam, they have to monitor you and baby for at least 15 to 20 minutes when you go in. That way they can know that everything is okay with baby. So they hooked me up to that, and baby was really good, moving like normal. And then they proceeded to check me. At this point, so around 11 o'clock, I was 80% effaced, which was 5% more than my appointment that was that previous Friday. I was 70 or 75% effaced. So I was 80% effaced, and I was 2 centimeters dilated. So obviously not enough to be admitted. To be admitted, you have to be at least 5 centimeters dilated. So they told us that we should walk around the hospital for 2 hours and then come back and be checked again to see if we made any progress. So that is what we did at 11 o'clock at night. I was freaking exhausted. So was Rowdy, obviously, since we had been up since 5 a.m. I've been contracting all day, so I'm like exhausted and beat from that. And we are walking around the hospital at 11, 12 o'clock at night. So that was fun. Luckily, it wasn't during the day, so the hospital is empty. It's nice and quiet. So every time I had a contraction, I could like lean up against the wall and there's no one around to watch me acting like a fool. We walked around the parking lot and whatnot. It was relaxing, but also like, obviously I'm in pain because I'm having contractions. Oh no. It's okay. So we do that and then we go back to get checked around 2 a.m. or 2 o'clock, around that time, and they check me again. Hold on guys, pause this video. I'll be right back. We're gonna go check on him. All right, I think we're good. We're just starting to stir. But, so like I was saying, after we walked around for 2 hours, I went back in to get checked again. And at this point, they checked me and I had made no progress. So that was very disappointing after being up for 2 hours. Yeah, so they told me they could try to ask the doctor, because obviously I was working with the nurse. They said they could try to ask the doctor if they would admit me, but chances were not likely. And so yeah, so she calls the doctor or messages the doctor and he says no, but he asks if we would like him to come talk to us. So he comes into chats with us, and this is the one doctor that I did not care for. If you're going to be moving to Guam and you're curious who it is, you can always message me in the comments or message me on Instagram and I can tell you. I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but I know I have it written down somewhere. But he was just so condescending. So first off, it's 2 a.m. I'm exhausted. I know that I can't be admitted, but he takes his time to give me a whole lesson on labor and when I can be admitted and how dilation works and all of this. And I went to the classes, we went to the hospital tour class, so I know all of this information. And so he's giving me a lesson at 2 a.m. and a very condescending one. And then he proceeds to tell me ways that I could progress labor, which I know, but obviously at this point, my main concern is getting some rest, because if I'm going to go into labor, I haven't slept all night long. I'm going to be exhausted going into labor. So I need either something to help me sleep or like give me some recommendations on that. And he's telling me how to progress labor and how I should go and float in the pool on base. And he's telling me that they open at 5 a.m. and that I should go. And I'm like, well, that's the least of my worries right now, is progressing labor or the discomfort. I need sleep because I'm exhausted. And just very condescending. Obviously, the stipulation we were told was the 5-1-1 rule, so the 5 minutes apart, or sorry, yeah. 5 minutes apart for over an hour, 1 minute in length. Something like that. Sorry, my brain. And he's telling us that isn't enough. So our question is, well, when do we come back to the hospital? Because if that was what we were going by, how do I know now when I should be coming back? If I'm already having contractions and in pain, when should I come back? And he basically told us that the only reason we should come back to the hospital is when I'm having such painful contractions that I'm in tears. That was his wording. And I don't know. To me, that doesn't make sense because everyone's pain tolerance is different. And yeah, so I don't know how that can be like what you're going by. And he made me repeat it back to him. So he literally looked me in the face and was like, so based on what I've told you, when are you going to come back to the hospital when you're in birth? Or when are you going to come back to the hospital? And I told him flat out, I was like, well, I guess when I'm in tears crying. And he said, well, I guess that's a great answer. That's a great answer. I like what I'm hearing. So that was him. We just did not clash. But great thing about the story is that he was on duty that night, which means that when baby delivered, he was not on call. So moving on, we go home and my labor kind of stalls. So obviously we didn't clash, but he was still a really good doctor. I know that he's delivered like over 2,000 babies. So I know that he's good at his job. I have no doubt that if he were the one that had to deliver our baby, that he would have done a great job. Our personalities just didn't match. So we go home, my labor does stall, so it's probably a good thing that I didn't have any. But yeah, so relax all day. We go and buy an exercise ball, so I bounce on the ball. We go on walks. We end up going to Gab Gab Beach for sunset, and we float in the ocean. Well, we walk Gab Gab and then we float in the ocean, which was very relaxing on contractions, and kind of just celebrated that last moment as parents. And I have a really cute video clip, which is like one of the last clips of us as non-parents before baby came. I'll try to insert it after this clip right here. So we're hoping to have a baby in the next, hopefully 24 hours.
Hopefully 24 hours.
You got a big belly. You're a real big baby.
There's a baby in there.
Mr. Nathan Hayes Herber. Excited?
Yeah.
To have a baby.
Yeah.
This could be our last video clip without a baby.
Just need you to hurry up.
Yeah. Mama would appreciate that.
Yeah, she's getting annoying.
Okay, so that was the clip, and not long after we got home from the sunset at Gab Gab, contractions started again, right on cue, same time as the night before. This child did not want us to get any sleep. Luckily, because my labor slowed a little bit, I was able to get a couple naps in during the day, but not a lot, so I at least got a little bit. The same time as before, we started to progress. We were at the 511, and they were really starting to get bad. So I did cry a little bit, and so I'm like, Brady was just like, we're going in. Like, we're gonna go get checked, let's go. So around 8 p.m. we decided to go in. So we get to the hospital again, same routine as the night before. We check into triage, they hook me up to everything, and they check me. And I am 80% effaced and 5 centimeters dilated. Praise the Lord. I was like so scared that I wasn't gonna make any progress again and that I was gonna be sent home, and I'm already in tears crying from these contractions, and I'm like, how are we gonna know to come back? I don't wanna have a baby on the bathroom floor, like, or in the car. That's my worst fear. Rowdy's worst fear too, because he ain't trying to deliver a baby. So we are 80% effaced, 5 centimeters dilated. A wonderful doctor on duty. She was great. Can't remember her name. I can try to leave it in the comments down below. And a fantastic nurse who, he was there a week before when we had a little scare and went and got checked, and he is phenomenal. So we were so happy he was there on the team. And so once you are admitted, they keep you in triage for a sec until they get all of your stuff done. So they had to draw your blood, put in your IV line, all of that stuff. So first off is COVID testing. You have to get COVID tested to know if you can leave your mask on or if you're isolated in your room. If you're isolated in your room, you can still have your support person. However, they are not allowed to leave the hospital room. So normally your spouse, you obviously can't leave, but your spouse or whoever, your support person, can leave and go get food, bring you stuff, go to the car. If you're COVID positive, you get isolated. So basically once you go get all your stuff, you cannot leave your room. You have to have someone else bring you stuff. So thankfully I came back negative. So then they drew my blood for all the testing, because they like to do a baseline of where all your stats are before you give birth and then obviously after. So if they don't match, they can compare them and know what you need. So they took that. The struggle with that was they took, first off, they put in my PICC line and I had a vein burst. So that was inconvenient. So then they had to redo it. And then they drew my blood and it ended up coagulating, and they had to redraw my blood. So I had been poked and prodded a ton. It's not fun. So, and I don't like needles. Like, I have tattoos and stuff, that doesn't bother me, but I don't like my blood drawn. So I just grin and bear it. But we got all that done. And after that, we were able to be admitted into our room, and at that point, I was able to get my epidural almost immediately. While I was in triage, they had called the anesthesiologist in. He was about 25-30 minutes out. So after triage, they put me in my room and he was there almost immediately. So for the relief. I was able to get my epidural, and that was a piece of cake. I guess just because I had been laboring for so long. And everyone always says that like the epidural feels like nothing after you've been having contractions, and they were right. I was a trooper through that. Didn't even really feel nothing but a pinch, and then I was good. Like, labor was a piece of cake. I ended up laboring all night long. They said that I was the textbook patient, where every couple hours when they would come in to check me, I had made progress. So very by the book pregnancy and delivery. Around 6:37 a.m. we were ready to push baby. However, there were 3 of us that night. It was a very busy night at the mother and baby unit. There were 3 of us racing to the finish line, and we all delivered roughly within the same time frame as each other. So that was fun. But around 6:37 we were ready to push, but we were waiting for someone to be ready. They put me up so that I could labor down to make pushing easier, which did end up helping. So it's basically they sit your hospital bed up, and then you sit to help gravity kind of pull everything down. And the other struggle with it being around 7 o'clock when we were ready was 7 o'clock is shift changeover. So the same nurse who had admitted us, the lady, was not the same doctor that delivered baby, because they were doing their shift change at 7 a.m. So very inconvenient. That's why we kind of had to wait, and they kind of had me labor down. And around 7:15, 7:30 or so, the nurse came in. I told her that I was feeling ready to push, or like pain in that area, and she checked me and said that I was ready to push. So they called the doctor in, and he was fantastic as well. Very sense of humor. They were all cracking jokes in the hospital room, and it's funny. So he checked me. It was like, "Are we ready to push?" We said yes, and he didn't immediately put on his hospital gown, because typically with first-time moms, you can be pushing for a couple hours. And so he's like, "I'm not gonna put on my hospital gown yet. Like, we're not convinced yet." So he checked me, and we started having me push, and sure enough, we were progressing fast, and he was like, "All right, gotta put on my hospital gown." So they got all ready, and I pushed for roughly 45 minutes. And at 8:16 we delivered our perfect, beautiful little boy, Nathan Hayes Herber. One of the most fantastic things about my delivery team, everyone in the room was fantastic. The one nurse, she reminded me of my mother-in-law. She was kind of helping with the breathing and coaching me through my breathing. And the guy that we really, really loved that checked us in was supposed to be off at 7 o'clock, obviously with shift turnover, and he did not want to miss the birth of this baby after he helped labor me all night long, but he ended up staying past his shift to help deliver baby. So that was phenomenal, and it was so nice to have someone who had been with me all night in the delivery room. So he was fantastic. And yeah, so at 8:16 we had our 8-pound 2-ounce baby boy, and healthy as can be, we were able to deliver, and he went straight onto my chest for what we call golden hour. It's basically, as long as nothing is wrong with your baby and there's no complications, they put baby directly on your chest to help with bonding, and you're able to start breastfeeding immediately to create that bond. So, and do the skin to skin. So that was fantastic, and a moment that I definitely cherish. One thing, I thought I was gonna cry, and I didn't cry, so that surprised me, because I'm typically a super emotional person. I think I was just so overwhelmed with emotions and just like how perfect he was that I couldn't cry. But yeah, so fantastic. Rowdy was fantastic through my entire birth. He was very great at supporting me. Every time I would have a contraction, he would help put counter pressure on my back. He would do the countdown timer on his phone, and he had been tracking the average amount of how contractions were. So he'd be like, "This one's only gonna last for another 20 seconds, like, you got this." He held my hand and rubbed my head through the entire birth. So I couldn't have asked for a better support person. But yeah, so overall we had a fantastic delivery and birth, but minus the one doctor, and healthy baby, fantastic staff at Naval Hospital Mother and Baby Unit. So if you are going to be delivering there anytime soon, don't stress. The staff was phenomenal. I have nothing but good things to say. Like I said, I only didn't mesh with one doctor, and everyone else across the board was above and beyond phenomenal. So helpful. So, but yeah, that is my labor and delivery story. We were able to get through it without him waking up after that first stir session. But yeah, if you have any questions, feel free to leave me a comment down below, message me on Instagram if you're going to be like delivering at Naval Hospital, and I can help answer any questions or any further details of like names or, you know, anything of how things went, or you have questions. Let me know and I can try to answer them. Like this video if you enjoyed it, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel for more sit-down videos, more vlogs, more unboxings. I have it all here on my Hanging with a Herber channel. So thanks guys for watching, and I will see you next Friday for another video. Bye guys!